Hey everybody, Mr. Youngman here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 504x Manfrotto tripod systems. Let's go ahead and get started. As we're getting started here, the first thing we're going to want to do with this tripod system is check to make sure that this lock is not engaged as we're opening the legs. I'm going to open up this lock here. It will unclip from that set of legs. And then after that clip is unclipped, we're going to go ahead and pull the legs out from each other. This will make sure that the tripod legs are nice and spread and gives us a good sturdy foundation. After this, our next step is going to be extending the legs a little bit. And to make that easier, I've folded the legs in. Now I'm going to unlock this bottom lock, and the legs should slide out automatically. If not, we can just give it a little pull, and that should help it out. We're going to lock that down. We're going to proceed to do the same exact thing for all the other legs, just kind of turning and rotating the tripod as we go. Once those bottom legs are extended, we're going to once again pull this all the way out. We're just going to set that tripod right there on the ground. Now we do have a second set of risers that we're able to use if we need to get a little bit more height on these tripods. I'm just going to unclasp the top here on all three latches. I'm going to grab it by the throat of the tripod right on top of the head here. I'm going to lift that up, and there's a little bubble level on here. We just want to make sure the bubble is in the center as we're raising this up. And we're going to go ahead and lock down each of these legs. And as I'm doing that, I'm still looking at the bubble level and making sure that this whole system is level so that we're not going to get a crooked shot. Now, as we're getting to know these tripods, it's going to be really important to know and understand where the locks are. So we have a tilt lock. It's located on the left side of the tripod here. And there's kind of two different places that you need to be aware of here. This inside collar is the actual lock. This left component on the outside is going to be used to make the tripod have more or less resistance. More tripod resistance means smoother shots, but it's going to mean that you're going to have to work just a little bit harder. Next up, we have our pan lock. The pan lock is located right here on the user side of the tripod. To unlock that, we're just going to twist that to the left, and that will enable us to tilt this or pan this tripod to the left or to the right. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and lock this down by tightening this knob all the way down to the right. And the other thing we'll want to know about on this tripod as we're getting kind of used to it for the first time is that we have a pan resistance right here at the bottom. If we twist this to the left, then there should be more resistance. If we twist it to the right, then there should be less resistance as we're moving this left and right. And just like with the tilt, if we have more resistance on our tilt, it's going to be smoother. Same goes for our pan. The more resistance, the smoother, but the more you're going to have to work for your shots. Now I'm going to unlock this pan and rotate this around so we can get a little bit better view of our tilt bar here, or our pan handle. Either one's going to be accurate. And if we want to go ahead and unlock this to adjust the user position, just moving a little bit farther away from the light here, we can unlock this bar, and we want to make sure we have a nice firm grip so it's not going to fall on its own. I'm going to loosen this down, and once it's loose, then we can move this either up or down to a position that is more comfortable for us while we're shooting. And we can also rotate it, so that's really good to know as well. All right, now why don't we go ahead and see about getting this tripod rigged up with a camera. Let's take a look at how we can attach the tripod plate to the camera now. To get started, we're going to want to use a slot or flathead screwdriver just like this one. It's going to make this process a lot easier. If you don't have one on hand, which I wouldn't expect you to, just make sure you're asking me for one and I'll get it into your hands. This tripod plate is going to attach to the bottom of our camera here. So I'm just going to flip this over. You'll see that on this particular camera, we have 3 different holes. There's a really big one, a really small one, and one that's kind of right in the middle here. For these tripod plates, we're going to want to use that bottom metal hole to screw into. So I'm just going to line this up all the way right next to that locating pin. And we're going to just lay it flat with the tripod, or with the camera, sorry, the bottom of the camera here. We're going to start screwing that in just with our fingers to start off. And if you look at the bottom side of this tripod plate, you'll see that there's a section where it says lens with an arrow. We just want to make sure that our lens is facing the same direction that it shows on the tripod plate. Once we have this finger tightened, we're just going to go ahead and use that screwdriver to take this down the rest of the way. And nice and firm. We don't want to overdo it, because if we're going to crank it really far down, that might damage the camera. But we just want to make sure it feels nice and snug and secure. Next up, we're going to go ahead and put our camcorder onto the tripod. We're going to go ahead and get started by making sure that this tab is in the unlock position. I'm just going to rotate that down now. Next, we're going to rotate this so that it's facing towards our camera operator. And we just want this handle facing kind of towards us. Then we're going to press firmly on this gray button right here to make sure that our push button tab is pushed up. After this, we're going to go ahead and put our camera on, and we're going to do this at a little bit of an angle. So first I'm going to go crooked and slide it underneath these tabs right here. And then I'm going to just drop the camera onto the tripod, and you should hear a loud click. Now what you'll notice here is that the camera is still able to slide forward and backwards, and that's for balancing purposes. But for now, we're just going to roughly guesstimate the center, and we're going to tighten down this tab. And now that camera is unable to slide forward or backwards at this time. We should always make sure we're giving our cameras a wiggle test before we let go of them from the tripod. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and talk about how to take the camera off of the tripod. To go ahead and get started, we're going to unlock our pan lock just so I can see a little bit better here. I'm going to turn this so that we have the lock facing towards us, and then we're going to go ahead and put one hand firmly on the top of the camera, use our other hand to unlock that lock. Whenever we're taking a camera off of a tripod, we want to be extra careful to make sure that the camera's not going to fall. I'm going to rotate this so we can see a little bit better, and keeping a hand on here, we're going to go ahead and hold down this gray button right here. We're just going to kind of rock the camera off, doing the opposite of what we did to go ahead and put it on. Now that we have the camera in hand, we're going to set this safely aside, right over there. And we're going to finally collapse the camera down. So I'm just going to pick up the tripod, fold it in from the center here, grab it by the throat, and then start unclasping all the locks that I've used. Then we can just slide the legs up. Again, just rotating around, sliding all these legs up, and locking them down, sliding that leg up, and locking it down. We're going to fold all the legs in together here, and we're going to look for that latch that we used. Ignore that little bonk there. Look for that latch that we used earlier, and just clip that onto the legs to make sure it's going to stay shut. And that's going to do it. That's going to take our tripod apart, and you are ready to pass it on to the next student or turn it in to the equipment lockup.